Roger, go for launch.
T-minus 3, 2, 1.
Atlas engine ignition.
Liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Delta IV Heavy rocket.
From Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida, ULA and Lockheed Martin Commercial Launch Services present live Atlas V launch coverage. At Space Launch Complex 41, an Atlas V rocket is fueled and ready to launch EchoStar XIX. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Donovan, and I lead the propulsion engineering team for ULA's Human and Commercial Services. I'm joining you today from Mission Control here in the Atlas Spaceflight Operations Center. At this point, the technical team is not working any issues, and we're proceeding towards liftoff at 1:27 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a 2-hour window for today's launch attempt. The launch count is currently in a planned 30-minute hold. There are two 30-minute holds in our 7-hour countdown. The holds give our team time to resolve any issues prior to entering the terminal count. A few guests will join me later in today's show, including Steve Skaladnik, President of Lockheed Martin Commercial Launch Services, and David Pidgeon, Vice President of EchoStar Programs for Space Systems Loral. This afternoon, we will also host another game of Twitter Trivia. If you watched last week's launch, you may be familiar with our contest. At 1:15 p.m. Eastern Time, questions will be posted to @ULALaunch. The first participant correctly replying to a question, along with hashtag EchoStar19, will receive a prize. Participants are eligible to win one trivia round. Stay tuned for answers and winners following liftoff. Clay Flynn, the 45th Space Wing's weather officer, just provided us with the final forecast, and the weather is within our launch commit criteria. The probability of violating launch constraints is 30%. The ground winds are 16 to 22 knots out of the south, and the temperature is 79 degrees Fahrenheit. With that favorable forecast, we're proceeding towards a plane T0 at 1:27 p.m. Eastern Time. Following a 32-minute flight, the Atlas V 431 rocket will be delivering the EchoStar XIX to a geosynchronous transfer orbit. Let's take a quick look at some of the events we can expect to see during today's launch.
The following profile details the important events of this mission using approximate times.
5, 4, 3, 2, we have RD-180 ignition, and we have liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket.
The Atlas V RD-180 main engine and 3 solid rocket boosters ignite to lift the vehicle away from the pad. Shortly after liftoff, Atlas begins its initial pitch, yaw, and roll maneuvers to attain the proper ascent profile and minimize aerodynamic loads. The Atlas V reaches Mach 1, the speed of sound, at 46 seconds. At 58 seconds, the vehicle experiences maximum dynamic pressure. The solid rocket boosters are jettisoned about 2 minutes after liftoff. As it approaches booster engine cutoff, the Atlas V is burning propellant at the rate of 1,506 pounds per second, traveling at over 12,000 miles per hour, and located 78 miles in altitude and 275 miles downrange. Booster engine cutoff occurs at 4 minutes 26 seconds, followed 6 seconds later by booster separation. The first Centaur main engine start takes place 10 seconds after booster separation. The payload fairing is jettisoned about 8 seconds later. The vehicle now weighs just 6% of what it did at liftoff 5 minutes earlier. Cutoff of the Centaur main engine occurs 13.5 minutes after launch. The mission now enters a coast phase lasting just under 9.5 minutes. At 23 minutes 10 seconds, the Centaur main engine is restarted. This burn will last nearly 6 minutes. Following the second Centaur main engine cutoff at 29 minutes after liftoff, the mission enters a final 3-minute coast phase. At 32 minutes, Centaur releases EchoStar XIX.
EchoStar 19 is the 68th Atlas V launch and the 115th ULA mission since formation 10 years ago. For this afternoon's mission, we're using an Atlas 431 configuration.
Produced in Decatur, Alabama and Harlingen, Texas, the Atlas V 431 is comprised of a common core booster powered by an RD-180 engine and 3 Aerojet Rocketdyne solid rocket boosters, as well as a Centaur second stage powered by an Aerojet Rocketdyne RL-10C1 engine. The EchoStar 19 satellite is protected during ascent by a 4-meter diameter payload fairing. Final launch preps began on December 5th when EchoStar 19 was encapsulated inside the payload fairing. On December 10th, the encapsulated payload was transported to the Vertical Integration Facility, or VIF, at Space Launch Complex 41, where it was mated to the Atlas V rocket. The day before launch, the countdown begins here in the Launch Control Center, where launch conductor Dylan Rice and his team support roll of the fully integrated Atlas V rocket atop its mobile launch platform from the VIF to the pad. Engineering and support team members verify the readiness of their systems and ensure a successful transport. Weighing in at about 2 million pounds, the Mobile Launch Platform, or MLP, supports the rocket and contains air conditioning, electrical, and commodities, while the undercarriages bear the weight of the MLP and rocket. 2 rail cars lead the quarter-mile move to the pad, with the payload van providing communication to the payload, while the ground van houses the ground support for the rocket. At the rear of the convoy, the portable environmental control system provides air conditioning to the payload and rocket. Finally, trackmobiles provide power to move the 3.5 million pound convoy on its approximately 20-minute trip. The Atlas V 431 rocket stands 194 feet tall, or about 20 stories, and weighs a little more than 1.6 million pounds fully fueled. The RD-180 main engine and 3 solid rocket boosters produce nearly 2 million pounds of thrust to lift the rocket off the pad and begin its journey to orbit.
Go ahead, this flight control.
First step 1010, perform launch on time verification.
Roger.
EchoStar 19 is a large, multi-spot beam Ka-band satellite built for EchoStar's Hughes Network Systems, which provides high-speed satellite internet service to more than 1 million subscribers in North America. The satellite was built by Space Systems Loral in Palo Alto, California, and is based on its powerful SSL 1300 platform. EchoStar 19 reflects many months of close collaboration between SSL and Hughes to create the world's highest capacity internet satellite launch to date, far exceeding that of its predecessor, EchoStar 17. Following separation, EchoStar 19 will propel to its geostationary orbit location over North America, where it will deploy its solar arrays to an overall wingspan of 26 meters. It will use electric propulsion to keep itself in the equatorial plane and point it over North America for more than 15 years. Its signal will be received by antennas mounted on homes and small businesses subscribed to the HughesNet high-speed satellite internet service. The satellite was designed and tested to ensure it can withstand the vibration and shock of launch and the harsh environment of space, including extreme temperature variations and radiation. This is all in a normal workday for SSL 1300 satellites. Atlas V missions using the 4-meter payload fairing, like today's, have the unique distinction of a hand-painted logo. The 4-meter fairing skin stringer design provides strength to handle the loads experienced during flight, but they also make it difficult to apply a decal. Since 1989, when the stringer design made its debut, Dennis DeBose has been hand-painting logos in ULA's Harlingen, Texas facility. The video we're looking at now was taken at the end of September when the artwork for today's EchoStar 19 mission was painted on its payload fairing. To learn more about this process, you can check out a video at ULA's YouTube channel. Today's mission is dedicated in memory of our colleague, partner, and friend, Len Phillips. During his 35-year career, Len played a significant role in more than 200 space launches. As the pad activation senior leader responsible for the construction of the Cape Canaveral and Vandenberg launch pads for Atlas II, III, and V, Len was instrumental in the design, implementation, testing, and cost management for these national assets. Len was a true patriot, great leader, and a tremendous friend. He was well respected by peers, customers, and suppliers for his technical knowledge, business acumen, and insightful leadership. With a great sense of humor, he inspired his coworkers to achieve far greater things than they ever believed themselves capable. Len will always be remembered for his love of family, friends, teammates, and of course, his beloved Pittsburgh Steelers.
All steps complete prior to the status check.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T-minus 4 minutes in holding. We remain in the planned 30-minute built-in hold as preparations for the launch continue. In a few moments, launch conductor Dylan Rice will pull the launch team for the final go to pick up the countdown. 28 engineers and managers will be pulled for system status and readiness to proceed with the launch. This is the final status check before launch for all Atlas vehicle systems, ground systems, the spacecraft, and the U.S. Air Force Eastern Range. The readiness poll includes hydraulics, pad water deluge system, electrical systems, pneumatics, propulsion systems, flight control, and propellants. Let's listen in as launch conductor Dylan Rice performs the final polling of the team.
Status check to proceed with terminal count, Atlas Systems, propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur Systems, propulsion.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
1. Go.
LH2.
Go.
HASGAS.
Go.
Electrical Systems, airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
COM.
Go.
Timer.
Go.
TC cubed.
Go.
Umbilicals.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Redline monitor.
Go.
Quality.
Go.
Ops safety manager.
Go.
ULA safety officer.
Go.
Vehicle system engineer.
VSC is go.
Anomaly chief.
AC is go.
Range coordinator.
Clear to proceed.
Launch director.
LD is go, and you have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. Timer T0 is planned for 18:27 Zulu. Set count to start at 18:23 Zulu.
Roger.
Polling is complete and the launch team has given the go for launch. From T-minus 4 minutes until launch, you will be listening to launch conductor Dylan Rice and his team performing the final steps in the countdown procedure. You will hear the team call out that Atlas LO2 topping has been secured, followed about a minute later by the call out for transferring the Atlas and Centaur stages from ground facility power to internal battery power. At T-minus 1 minute 55 seconds, the team will command the launch sequencer to start, followed shortly by securing the Centaur LH2 and LO2 topping activity. At T-minus 1 minute 40 seconds, the team will command the flight control system to launch enable and arm the flight termination system. In the final minute, the Atlas tanks will be verified at flight pressures, followed by verification of Centaur tank pressures. A final status check of Atlas, Centaur, and EchoStar XIX readiness is conducted at T-minus 25 seconds. Seconds before liftoff, the RD-180 engine ignites and performs a health check, followed by ignition of the 3 solid rocket boosters to lift the vehicle off the pad. After liftoff, you'll hear the voice of Marty Malinowski providing launch vehicle ascent data.
On my mark, the time will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark.
T-minus 3 minutes.
Securing LO2 topping.
Atlas tanks to flight pressure.
2 minutes 50 seconds.
SDS internal.
The countdown clock is moving, and we are go for launch at 1:27 p.m. Eastern Time.
One minute 59 seconds.
Vehicle internal.
155.
Launch sequence start.
150.
Securing Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO2.
140.
Launch enabled.
137.
SDS armed.
T-minus 90 seconds. The launch vehicle, payload, ground systems, and eastern range are go for launch.
1 minute 20 seconds.
OCUs armed.
SDS count started.
115.
Hold, flight control.
LC switch not ready. LC can verify the clock has stopped. All personnel, switch to page 137, operation 80, terminal count recycle.
As you can hear, we are currently in a hold. The team has stopped the terminal count to address an item that came up here in the final moments before launch. They are moving to the portion of the procedure that will secure the vehicle and ensure that we are ready for proceeding into a future terminal account as they assess what was identified here in the terminal count. So at this point, we'll pause as the team recycles and we wait for identification of what has come up and resolution.
LC, this is flight control.
Go flight control.
SS VAP inactive. SDS in pre-flight mode.
Roger. PNE 2LC net 1.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Can you verify tank venting?
We never pressurized, so the tanks are stable.
Roger. Thank you.
Atlas tank pressures are stable.
Roger. OSM, place SRB ignition SNA switch to disabled position.
SRB ignition disabled.
LCS redline monitor.
Go redline monitor.
In the redline file, it looks like measurement Charlie Indigo Golf Mike 0133 Papa Victor was the first OTC that triggered. This is the IMS channel 2 ECM 5 volt reference.
Roger.
LC timer.
Go timer.
Countdown clock reset to T-4 and holding for 15 minutes.
Roger. FTS LC.
Go ahead, LC.
Okay, what's the status of the FTS system?
Everything is safe and external.
Roger. All stations recycle systems back to T-4 and holding configuration. Recycle occurred at T-74 seconds. Report status of completion. AC, LC, net 1.
AC 1.
Yes, at this time, Redline Monitor has reported an out-of-tolerance condition on the IMS Channel 2. Please convene the anomaly team and provide a recommendation.
Roger, I copy the info and we'll go.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T-4 minutes and holding. As we just went into the terminal count, there was a hold identified just prior to getting to T-1 minute. At this point, the anomaly team has been convened to review what has come up during the terminal count. They'll be looking through the data gathered and identifying a path forward. So at this point, the vehicle is safed, and we are sitting in this T-4 hold. We do have a 2-hour launch window today, so the team will be working through to resolve this and making recommendations back to the launch conductor on the best way to proceed forward with today's launch attempt. We will provide updates as they became available as the team works through what did come up during our recent terminal count.
LC, this is Field 2.
Go Field 2.
Top 80, step 370, India complete.
Roger.
Step Charlie, complete. Step Delta, complete.
Roger, Charlie and Delta.
Echo is complete and Foxtrot complete.
Roger, Echo, Foxtrot.
Step Juliet, complete.
Roger.
Step Alpha, complete.
Roger.
step golf, Centaur LO2, continuing topping.
Roger.
Step kilo complete.
Roger.
Step Lima, GC Cube ready.
Roger.
Step Bravo, Atlas LO2, continuing topping.
Roger.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T-minus 4 minutes and holding. At this point, the countdown clock has been set for a T0 no earlier than 1:47 p.m. Eastern Time. Still gives us an hour and 40 minutes remaining in our window, even with that T0. However, at this point, the team is still working through what was identified during the initial countdown and working through resolution. So we will keep you updated as the team works through resolution and any updates that we have for any planned T0. But at this point, T0 is planned to take place no earlier than 1:47 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, I actually.
Red light monitor is ready.
Roger.
LC ECS.
Go ECS.
Step November, ECS, set point stable.
Roger.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T-minus 4 minutes in holding. At this point, the anomaly team continues to review what was identified during the previous terminal countdown, where we did violate one of our red line criterias. At this point, they're reviewing data. We expect them over the next couple minutes to provide an update back to the launch conductor and the anomaly chief on where they're at with that assessment. So T0 right now is planned for no earlier than 1:47 p.m. Eastern Time. We expect the team to be working through and updating the launch conductor as they identify what did cause us to abort out of the terminal count the previous time, and at what point we may be ready for another launch attempt. Again, we do have 2 hours for today's launch based on the initial T0, so there's still time for the team to work through the anomaly and identify if we will be ready to launch today. We'll provide an update here in a couple minutes once we learn more from the team working through what was identified during the previous launch count.
LC locks 2. LC locks 2.
Go, Lock 2.
Step Hotel has gas ready.
Roger. System recycle is complete. And for the team on net 1, we are going to stand by here until we have a go forward plan.
LCSC.
Go, SC.
Spacecraft is on external power.
Roger. LD, LC net 1.
LD.
Yes, sir. At this time, we are complete with our system recycle, and spacecraft is on external power. Recommendation to stand by here until we have a clear direction forward.
LD copies. Sounds like engineering's coming to a conclusion. We'll give them a little more time, and then I'll pick a new T0 for you. Thank you.
Roger that. Timer, LC?
This is timer. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Please continue to extend the clock per our normal con-op.
Roger.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T-minus 4 minutes in holding. As you just heard on the countdown net, at this point the team is following standard process. We'll identify new T0s and continue to push out what that launch time is until we have resolution of the engineering item that did come up during the initial terminal countdown. So the team is working through on the engineering side resolution of what was identified during that first terminal count, and they will be updating our planned T0 as they work through resolution of that item. So at this point, the current T0 is planned for no earlier than 1:52 p.m. Eastern Time, and they will continue to extend that per our standard process until we have engineering resolution and then a updated T0 that will be shared with the launch conductor. As we learn more, we'll be sharing it with you. This is Atlas Mission Control at T-minus 4 minutes and holding. At this point, the engineering team is working through resolution of the out-of-tolerance condition that was identified during the initial terminal count. The T0 has been set to no earlier than 1:57 p.m. Eastern Time, and the launch conductor is following our standard process, whereas the engineering team works through that resolution. They will update the T0 to allow the team the appropriate time to verify that we are ready for launch. At this point, even with that 1:57 p.m. T0, we still have another 1.5 hours of window remaining. So we will continue to monitor the engineering team's resolution of what did come up during the initial terminal count. It does sound as though it was tied to an out-of-tolerance condition relative to criteria set for the avionics system during that terminal count sequence. So as they work through that, we will continue to monitor the situation and provide you updates as a new T0 is established and relative to the readiness of the vehicle to launch EchoStar 19 today. So please stand by, and as we learn more, we will be sharing that with you. Thank you. This is Atlas Mission Control at T-minus 4 minutes and holding. The engineering team continues to work through resolution of the out-of-tolerance condition identified during our initial launch attempt and the fact that we did abort out of the terminal count. The engineering team has identified the out-of-tolerance condition that did abort us out and is working through resolution and readiness to proceed with today's launch countdown. They should be providing an update to the launch conductor at the point at which they are ready to provide that out brief. At this point, our T0 is planned for no earlier than 2:02 p.m. Eastern Time, and they will continue to follow the standard process where that T0 is updated and pushed a little further into the window to allow the engineering team time to have resolution of that item that was identified. So as more information becomes available, we will provide you updates, or you should be hearing updates to the launch conductor on channel 1.
LCN1 is AC.
LC.
Ready to outbrief.
LD.
LD's on one.
Proceed AC.
Okay, we've established that the hold was due to a race condition, monitoring parameters. There are 4 associated with this monitoring at the same time. We've established a recommendation that the FCE operator will manually monitor these 4 to the noted conditions, and by T-minus 70 we'll give a report that they are within the requirements per the RGS 3346. And FCE has verified he is ready to perform that function. We also need to disable within the red line monitor line items 296, 97, 98, 99. With that recommendation being implemented, we are ready to proceed.
LC copies and concurs. LD.
LD concurs.
Thank you, AC.
You're welcome.
FCE, RLM, LC, Net 1.
RLM.
And this is FCL.
Okay, are you prepared to implement the recommendation per the AC's outbrief?
Yes, sir. Ready to go.
Okay, please proceed.
RLM proceeding.
And LCFC.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. We are prepared.
Roger.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T-minus 4 minutes and holding. As you just heard on the countdown net, the anomaly chief did brief the launch conductor on what did put us out of our original terminal count for today's EchoStar 19 launch. At this point, the engineering team has been able to review the data and identify that a manual monitor of the criteria that did cause us to abort will address what they did find during the initial terminal count. You heard the coordination associated with ensuring that those manual monitors will be conducted as part of the final terminal count right around T-minus 1 minute. So at this point, the team has reached resolution of that. Our T0 right now is 2:12 p.m. Eastern Time, and the countdown clocks are moving towards that. So as they complete the final preparations and polling for getting back into the terminal count, we'll monitor that T0. At this time, again, 2:12 p.m. Eastern Time for T0 for today's Atlas V EchoStar 19 launch, and we'll be listening in as we prepare for polling coming up shortly.
Sorbet ignition enabled.
Timer, LC.
This is timer, go ahead.
Please configure for a new T0 of 1913 Zulu.
Roger, and work.
OSM, verify the FCO, RCO, and OSM hold fire switches are in the proceed position.
Ready to proceed.
RLM, verify red line monitor and event table are in the correct condition for terminal count.
Red line monitor and event table in the correct configuration terminal count.
Roger. FC, perform launch on time verification.
Roger. Launch on time verified.
Roger.
This is Atlas Mission Control again. We are at T-minus 4 minutes and holding. As you just heard, they are coordinating a new T0 of 2:13 p.m. Eastern Time. The countdown clocks are being set for that T0, and the team is going through the final preparations and polling to support that and transitioning into the terminal count. We should be hearing polling coming up relatively soon from Dylan Rice and the rest of his team as we proceed towards that new T0 of 2:13 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Atlas Mission Control at T-minus 4 minutes and holding. At this point, the team has recycled for our initial terminal countdown. They've resolved the item that came up with the out-of-tolerance condition, and shortly we'll be hearing Dylan Rice poll the rest of his team with their readiness to proceed into our second terminal count for today, planning a T0 of 2:13 p.m. Eastern Time.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. Atlas Systems.
Go.
Propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur Systems. Propulsion.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
HASGAS.
Go.
Electrical Systems. Airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
COM.
Go.
Timer.
Go.
DC cubed.
Go.
Umbilicals.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Redline monitor.
Go.
Quality.
Go.
Op safety manager.
Go.
ULA safety officer.
Go.
Vehicle system engineer.
VSC is go.
Anomaly chief.
AC is go.
Range coordinator.
Clear to proceed.
Launch director.
Okay, this is LD. LD is go, and you have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. Timer. T0 is planned for 1913 Zulu. Set count to start at 1909 Zulu.
Roger. T0 is set for 1913 Zulu. Count will start at 1909 Zulu.
Spacecraft on internal power.
Roger. All steps complete prior to terminal count.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T-minus 4 minutes and holding. As you just heard, the team is ready to proceed with terminal count. They will be picking up the hold here in about 45 seconds, proceeding towards our T0 at 2:13 p.m. Eastern Time.
On my mark, the time will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark.
3 minutes 55.
Ground pyros enabled.
T-minus 3 minutes.
Securing LO2 topping. Atlas stinks to flight pressure.
2 minutes 50 seconds.
FDS internal.
The The countdown clock is counting down, and we are go for launch at 2:13 p.m. Eastern Time.
One minute 59.
Vehicle internal.
155.
Launch sequencer start.
150.
Securing Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO2.
140.
Launch enabled.
137.
FPS arm.
T-minus 90 seconds. The launch vehicle, payload, ground systems, and Eastern Range are go for launch.
120.
OCUs armed.
SCS count started.
115. 110.
Vent valves locked.
T-minus 1 minute.
T-minus 40 seconds.
Stable at step 3.
$28. 25.
Status check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go EchoStar 19.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have RD-180 ignition, and we have liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket carrying EchoStar 19.
And the jaw roll has begun. Booster used on closed-loop control.
You're hearing the voice of Marty Malinowski providing launch vehicle ascent data.
The jaw program is complete. Roll program is complete. Body rates look good. Mach 1. Boosters throttled back up. Max Q. Vehicle body rates continue to look good. Injector pressures, pump speeds within expected range. SRB chamber pressures have plateaued. Burn looks good. Coming up on SRB burnout. And we have SRB burnout. Boosters throttled back up. Engine response looks good. Body rates continue to control down the middle. So we're at 1.6 Gs. Booster is now 50% its liftoff weight. Current altitude is 25 miles, downrange distance 28.6 miles, current velocity 3,444 miles per hour. Range track looks good. Booster has begun Q alpha limited steering. Only minor body rates at this point. Pump speeds, injector pressures continue to look good. Q alpha steering has been completed. The RCS pyro valve is now being fired. System is pressurizing the flight levels. Signatures look good. And booster has throttled back down. Engine response continues to look good. Range track shows the vehicle making good progress downrange. Current altitude 47 miles, downrange distance 112 miles, current velocity 6,800 miles per hour. Booster is now 1/4 its liftoff weight. Vehicle is accelerating smoothly at 3.7 Gs, coming up on our throttle segment momentarily. And we have begun throttling to 4.1 Gs. Engine response continues to look very good, maintaining the 4.1 G throttle profile. Coming up on boost phase chill down. We have boost phase chill down underway. Pogo lead valve has been fired. Boost phase cool down is complete. Coming up on pico momentarily, and we have pico. Engine shutdown looks good. We have retros and stage separation. We have LOX and fuel pre-start. GN2 purge firing of the RCS is underway. We have ignition and full thrust on the RL-10. Coming up on payload fairing jettison. And we have indication of payload fairing jettison. Current altitude is 96 miles. Downrange distance is 466 miles. Current velocity 12,951 miles per hour. Range track continues to look good. And we have indication of booster PE at this point. Looks like minus 18 pounds. Centaur PU is now in closed loop control, commanding a slightly oxidizer-rich condition. Seeing our normal RCS thermal conditioning firings as those lines are warming to throttle temperatures. This burn is scheduled for 9 minutes in duration, followed by a coast duration of 9 minutes and 26 seconds.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T plus 6 minutes, 32 seconds. Marty Malinowski just confirmed the successful completion of the early phase of today's flight, and all systems continue to operate nominally. The mission is currently in the first of 2 Centaur engine burns. Our next event, Centaur main engine cutoff, will occur in approximately 7 minutes.
And Centaur has begun the roll to TDRS for telemetry optimization. We have had the format change, only a minor loss of data. All data has resumed. Signatures continue to look good. RL-10 chamber pressures, LOX pump, and fuel venturi, all good.
So I'm joined now by David Pigeon, who's the Vice President of EchoStar Programs for Space Systems Loral. Dave, thanks so much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Matt.
So can you tell us a little bit more about EchoStar 19?
Yeah, I'd love to. So EchoStar 19, we've been in the working stages of that for almost 4 years now with Hughes and EchoStar and SSL. And it's such a complicated satellite, one of the most complicated that we have ever done before. So, boy, it's good to see this launch go off really well. There's a lot of people in Palo Alto right now that have spent a lot of time working on this satellite, and it's certainly exciting to see it go off.
Do you have any stories to share about some of those folks that have made such a huge investment in what we're watching today?
Good question. There is so many people, almost 1 million, people hours of working on the satellite, thousands of people working on it, but certainly the program manager, Steve Perez, the two lead technical people on the program, Jennifer Salmon and Ricky Sanborn, Mike Aliamis on antenna, and then Jeff Block, building the whole satellite up. Just an incredible effort over the last couple of years.
It really is amazing to see everything that goes into one of these launches. So once the Centaur drops off EchoStar 19, tell me a little bit more about what happens next.
Good question. Well, the first and foremost, we have two things. First, command and control. You want to be able to hear from the satellite, see all the telemetry coming down, and you also want to be able to command to the satellite. And then the second most important thing is power. Right now we're on battery power, and just like with your cell phones at home, if you leave it on too long, you need to charge it up. So we're right now for the launch, the solar arrays are stowed right up against the satellite, and the first thing we'll do in the next couple of hours is deploy those solar arrays, fire the explosive bolts, and that way we can get stable power and attitude on the satellite.
It's obviously important for any satellite. So we're not placing EchoStar 19 in its final orbit. Tell me a little bit more about where it's going to end up.
Sure. So first of all, the Atlas V does most of the legwork. It's got 1.6 million pounds and 2 million pounds of thrust. And so it's done most of the heavy lifting to get the satellite into orbit. The orbit that it's in right now is called a geostationary transfer orbit, where the low end of the orbit is around 200 miles and the high end of the orbit is well past geosynchronous orbit. So we'll use onboard propulsion. We have maybe 100 pounds of thrust compared to 2 million pounds of thrust. And over the next several days, we will lift that orbit up into a geosynchronous equatorial orbit. It's also known as a geostationary orbit because the satellite rotates around the Earth at the same rate that the Earth rotates around itself. So from an Earth observer or an antenna on your house, it looks fixed. And that's the goal of a geo orbit.
Right, so you talked about that antenna and that being fixed. Tell me a little bit more about how this is going to bring internet to people.
Sure. Yeah, this satellite will provide high bandwidth capability to millions of HughesNet customers. And when from the home, you would have an antenna on your roof just like you would for like a Dish Network's TV. But in this case, it would be connected to a router and then to your laptop or your computer. You'd type in a command. It would then, or try to get access to a website. It would go up through the antenna. At the speed of light, it would travel up to the satellite. Now, once on the satellite, very quickly it would be cleaned up, amplified, channelized, redistributed to one of the ground stations where they have gateways on HughesNet. That information would be then reciprocated back up through the satellite, back to your computer, and it all happens in just milliseconds because, as we all know, the speed of light is pretty darn fast, Matt.
It absolutely is. Well, David, I really appreciate you joining us today, telling us a little bit more about how Space Systems Morale and Hughes are working together to make this kind of capability available to folks, like you talked about the millions of people that will be affected by this capability. So thanks so much for coming and sharing a little bit about this precious payload.
Great. My pleasure. Thank you.
Mark. All other systems are stable. Current altitude is 137 miles, downrange distance 225 miles, current velocity 16,697 miles per hour. Range track continues to look good.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T plus 12 minutes, 48 seconds into the EchoStar 19 mission. The Atlas Centaur second stage and EchoStar 19 are currently traveling southeast over the Atlantic Ocean. Our next event, the first Centaur main engine cutoff, or MECO 1, is scheduled to take place in less than a minute. Once again, here's Marty Malinowski.
System continues to warm to bottle temperature. Right. Tank pressures, storage bottles, and batteries are all good. And we have IAP vanished. Centaur is now orbital. Coming up on MECO momentarily. And we have MECO. Engine shutdown looks good. Going to 4S settling motors. Fuel tank has been vented down, is now stable. Storage bottle pressures are stable as well. Batteries continue to look good. As mentioned earlier, this coast phase is scheduled for 9 minutes and 26 seconds in duration prior to our second burn, which will be just under 6 minutes in duration. Centaur has completed the turn to its MES 2 attitude. Correction has not completed, but has begun the turn to MES 2 attitude. Centaur continues to settle. 4S duty cycle, 100%. Tank pressures remain stable. Storage bottle pressures look good.
So we've just heard Marty Malinowski report successful completion of the first of 2 Centaur burns, and all systems continue to operate as expected. The final Centaur burn is scheduled to take place in about 8 minutes. Joining me now is Steve Skladnik, who's the president of Lockheed Martin Commercial Launch Services. Steve, thanks so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure.
So tell me how Lockheed Martin is involved in today's launch.
Sure. Lockheed Martin has the responsibility to market the Atlas launch services to commercial customers, much like Echo, and also to international government customers. We then work very closely with United Launch Alliance to deliver those launch services to those customers.
So that's obviously a very important role that Lockheed Martin has representing Atlas V. And so tell me a little bit more about your job and your role in that endeavor.
Mm-hmm. So as president of the organization, I coordinate a group of individuals that are responsible for both the contracting of the launch service itself, from both angles, both with the customer and with the United Launch Alliance. We are responsible for the FAA license. Many people don't understand that we are governed by the Federal Aviation Administration, and this requires a launch license. So Lockheed Martin is responsible for that effort. Should this be an international customer, this one is not, but oftentimes we do deal with international customers, and we're responsible to ensure that data protections are in place to make certain that we don't have any information that should not go to hands that we don't want them to. And we also do many of the customer affairs events.
It's a really fascinating job. I'll tell you, we at ULA obviously take a lot of pride in the reliability, the schedule certainty that Atlas provides, and the unique value that provides. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you're able to communicate that to the customer?
Sure. You know, value is measured by a number of factors, and not necessarily by that number that's at the bottom of the contract. For example, there's a defined and measurable benefits associated with, for instance, date certainty. A satellite sitting in a high bay in a clean room someplace waiting for a launch service doesn't generate any revenue for that commercial customer. So date certainty has a very, very valuable importance to a commercial customer. There is defined and measurable benefit to the accuracy with which the Atlas is able to insert a spacecraft into its very, very precise orbit. If the spacecraft doesn't have to use its own fuel to correct for errors that the rocket might impart on that spacecraft during the ascent, then that fuel is now available to the spacecraft later in life to allow it to continue its mission for that customer and continue to generate revenues for it. There's also defined and measurable benefit to the reliability of Atlas. Matt, I'm sure you've got insurance for driving your car. We have to have insurance on this rocket as well.
Right.
And if you're a better driver, you get a better rate on your insurance. Well, with a more reliable rocket, we get much better rates from the insurance community to insure that rocket. So again, a very tangible benefit. Atlas excels at all of these values that we provide to the customer. At the end of the day, we think we do provide an extremely competitive and valuable resource.
It really is an exceptional success record that Atlas has been able to build, and now we have a new tool to be able to communicate that better to folks and customers. Can you tell us more about that tool?
We do. This is a tool that was developed primarily by United Launch Alliance, but in cooperation with Lockheed Martin, to show the benefits of some of these attributes and allow the customer community and any user really to log on to this website, to define their mission, to build their rocket, and see what kind of value they can achieve by using the Atlas launch solution. That web tool is based at www.rocketbuilder.com.
And it's really a great tool. You can get in there, anybody can go in and see what it takes to go launch a payload, whether it's just for interesting learning about the value or whether it's a customer that's really looking to understand the unique value proposition that Atlas V has to provide.
Correct. Very good.
All right, well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate the time that you've spent with us and obviously how important today is for Space Systems morale and our customers and working with Lockheed Martin to make today happen.
It's been my pleasure.
Great, thank you.
Take care.
Distance is 4,321 miles. Current velocity 17,774 miles per hour. Approximately 3 minutes to MS2.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T plus 21 minutes, 6 seconds. We're a few minutes away from restart of the Centaur main engine. Let's go back to Marty.
Right. Approximately 2 minutes remain in this coast period. Centaur has begun the MS2 start sequence. It has gone to 4S settling. Tank pressurization is underway. Approximately 1 minute to miss. have fuel pre-start underway. LOX pre-start is underway. We have RL10 ignition and full thrust. This burn again is scheduled for just under 6 minutes in duration. Centaur PU is requesting an oxidizer-rich condition. Engine response looks good. Chamber pressures, LOX pump discharge, and fuel venturi all within expected range. The normal thermal conditioning firings.
As Marty Malinowski just reported, the Centaur main engine has been restarted for the final Centaur engine burn. This burn will last nearly 6 minutes. The Centaur and EchoStar 19 are currently located over the northwest coast of Africa. They continue to travel in a southeasterly direction. Between now and our next event, MECO 2, Centaur will cross over the Gulf of Guinea. Engine cutoff will occur above the country of Gabon. We heard earlier from Space Systems Loral's Dave Pigeon about the tremendous capability of the EchoStar 19 satellite. While we wait for our next event, why don't we take a look at a video highlighting that capability.
SSL and Hughes Network Systems have a long-term collaborative relationship that has helped to push the boundaries of today's satellite technologies. The companies worked closely to develop one of the world's highest capacity satellites in orbit today and have further advanced satellites' capability with EchoStar 19, which will improve lives by bringing the benefits of quality, high-speed internet service to a growing number of families and small businesses across North America. SSL is a leader in building satellites for high-speed broadband service and has worked with EchoStar and its Hughes Network Systems division for many years. The companies share a commitment to providing value, service, and unwavering reliability. EchoStar 19 represents the next generation of satellite internet. It is a large, multi-spot beam Ka-band satellite based on the powerful SSL 1300 platform, which incorporates highly advanced technologies and is used for many different kinds of satellite services, including high-speed internet. SSL has built nearly 50 satellites with high-throughput payloads. These include the world's first high-throughput satellite, which was launched in 2005, and the 2 highest-capacity broadband satellites in service today. Hughes is a satellite technology industry leader with more than 40 years of experience and 5 million systems installed in more than 100 countries. Hughes pioneered satellite internet, and its HughesNet service brings high-speed connections to more than 1 million customers in the U.S., many of whom depend on EchoStar 17, built by SSL and launched in 2012. The satellite provides fast and reliable service for high-bandwidth application traffic, such as video, music, and other media-intensive content. EchoStar 19 will provide more speed, more data, and more advanced features to HughesNet, broadening the availability of high-speed access from coast to coast. The Hughes and SSL engineers worked closely to push the capability of satellite technology with a satellite that provides significantly more capacity than the previous record breaker. SSL would like to thank EchoStar and Hughes for their trust and confidence. Building EchoStar 19 was a significant accomplishment, which would not have been possible without the teamwork and commitment of hundreds of engineers and technicians with a passion for working together to make the impossible possible.
This is
Approximately 1
Atlas
minute.
Mission Control at T plus 28 minutes and 8 seconds. We're a minute or so away from completion of the second Centaur main engine burn. Let's listen to Marty once again.
Approximately 30 seconds left in this burn. And we have MECO. Engine shutdown looks good. We have 4S settling motors on. Centaur has begun the turn to separation attitude. Fuel tank has been vented down and is now stable. Storage bottle pressures are stable as well. Batteries look good.
With the second and final Centaur main engine burn completed, we're in the final minutes of today's mission prior to separation of the EchoStar XIX satellite. With that, let's go ahead and see the winners from our Twitter trivia contest. Our first question that we had was SSL and Hughes engineered the design of EchoStar XIX based on their experience with which broadband satellite? The answer is EchoStar 17. We'd like to congratulate the winner, who is at Kai Faramond XD. So good job answering that question in our Twitter Trivia Challenge. Our second question that we had is EchoStar 19 will use electric propulsion to keep itself pointed over North America for how long? The answer to that question is 15 years, and the winner there is at Ballenbro220. So congratulations on getting that one correct. Our third question that came in was Atlas V 431 is launched 2 times before EchoStar 19. The first mission was Inmarsat 4F1. Which mission and date was the second? So that mission was Intelsat 14 on November 23rd, 2009. And we'd like to congratulate the winner there at Link256. And our next question that we had, the final one here, is that ULA recently celebrated our 10th anniversary. What was ULA's first mission? And the correct answer there is NRO L21 on a Delta II, December 14th, 2006. So our winner on that one is at BaseRunner0723. So thank you to everyone for your participation in our Twitter Trivia Challenge. Thanks so much for sending in those responses, and congratulations to our winners. We're coming up here on spacecraft separation, so let's get back to Marty Malinowski for that call.
Centaur has begun the transverse spin-up. Coming up on spacecraft separation momentarily, and we have indication of spacecraft set. Centaur has despun from the transverse spin-up.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T plus 32 minutes and 27 seconds. Congratulations to the combined Hughes, EchoStar, Space Systems, Loral, Lockheed Martin, and ULA team on the successful delivery of EchoStar 19 to orbit. Liftoff of the Atlas V rocket occurred at 2:13 p.m. Eastern Time. Before we sign off, I'd like to take a moment to remember John Glenn. Following launch on Atlas 109D from Complex 14 on February 20th, 1962, Mercury astronaut John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth. Glenn was a lifelong champion of space, and near the 50th anniversary of his Atlas flight, the ULA team had the honor of hosting he and his wife Annie for an Atlas V launch here at Cape Canaveral. John Glenn remains an inspiration to many and has made a significant impact in the lives of many here at ULA. Godspeed, John Glenn. And we will miss you, John Glenn. For more information about the Atlas V or about today's mission, you can visit ulalaunch.com or join the conversation on Facebook or Twitter. I'd like to thank David Pidgeon and Steven Skaladnik from Lockheed Martin for their participation in today's broadcast, as well as Marty Malinowski for providing us with launch vehicle ascent information. We'll complete our coverage with another look at liftoff. I'm Matt Donovan, and on behalf of the entire launch team, thanks for joining us and have a happy holidays. 1. We have RD-180 ignition, and we have liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket carrying EchoStar XIX.
And pitch yaw roll program has begun. Booster fused on closed loop control.
You're hearing the voice of Marty Malinowski providing launch vehicle ascent data.
Pitch yaw program is complete.